tonight's class, we are going to first do the solution to the last class assignment. Then we start today's class. So in our last class, I gave you an assignment that you have two inputs and a button. Then when you click on the three inputs, we have three inputs. ID, you can call this first. IMP. Placeholder. First input. Sorry, someone wants to join the class. You are welcome. Sharifat, you are welcome. You gave a good solution to the assignments.
Good evening.
Good evening. You are welcome. Welcome. Thank you. I need to. Just ignore. ID are disabled. Button. So please let me first say this. Ensure you don't click on this message in this chat box. Don't click on this. I don't know what it's about. Just ignore it. Okay. So we can say divide numbers. Okay. So when you click on this button, you get the value here, divide by the value here, put the results here. Zakaria, you provided a good solution to the last assignment. Well done. I think those are the two persons I talked about, Sharifat and Zakaria. Okay, so what you want to do is on click of this button, you want to call on a function. So let's create a function together. You can call it divide inputs. So when you click on this button, you want to run the code here. Divide inputs. So firstly, you want to get the value here, then get the value here, divide them, and put the results here. So we can say let first input equals to first input as value. So what this is going to do is that it will get whatever the user typed here and save it as variable first input. Let second input equals to second input as value. So again, when the you get the value here, whatever the user typed here, I'll save it as variable second input. Sorry, someone wants to join. You can call this display. Let's start this display instead. So we can now say display now this display is an input. Remember, an input is an editable container, so we use that value for it. Equals to first input divided by second input, like this. So instantly to put the results here. So let's run it together. You can also create a variable, maybe it's something. Let's result equals to, you can do it like this. So we created a variable called results. We are saying result equals to first input divided by second input. Whatever result this gives becomes the value of variable result. So you can now say display.value equals to results. So I think this is neater. So when the user types in this and this, then click on this button, it will get whatever is here, save it as first input, get whatever is here, save it as second input, then create a variable called results, and the value will now be first input divided by second input, then display.value equals to results. Any question? So let's go to tonight's class. Tonight, we'll continue from here. Now, what I want to do now is this. Okay, sorry, someone wants to ask a question. Ruth Kamisala, you can ask your question. You have the floor. Hello. Okay, let's continue. So let's look at something. Instead of division, we want to add them together. That is, when the user types a value here, they type another value here, add the two values there, and put the results. We can hear you now. Okay. So when the user types a value here, then types another value here, we want to add the two results together, that is the two values together, and put the results there. Instead of division, we want it to be addition. So what I will do is I will change this to plus, and we'll look at how this works, and that leads us to the next topic that we want to look at. So remember, when we put division here, everything works fine, right? So come here and put some values here. Let's say 7, and let's say 4. 7 plus 4, that should give us 11. So what we should have here should be 11. But what we have here is 74. Let's say this is 6, and this is 8. 6 plus 8, that should give us 14. But this is giving us 6 8s. So let's look at the reason for this. That leads us to the topic of data types. So I'll comment out all of this code so that we can focus on data types, then we'll look at why this is behaving like this and not behaving the way we expected it. So tonight we are going to consider data types and concatenation. These are the topics we're going to consider: data types and concatenation. So data types. Data types talks about the types of data that we have in JavaScript. JavaScript has different types of data. Before now, we've been dealing with numbers alone, right? So in JavaScript, the data types include number, it includes boolean, it includes string, then it includes objects. Then under objects, we have null, we have object itself, we have undefined, we have array, then another data type is undefined. So these are the data types we have in JavaScript: number, boolean, string, undefined, object. Under objects, we have null, object, and array, right? So all these we've been dealing with this first one, numbers alone. Data types talks about the types of data that we can deal with in JavaScript. So let's briefly talk about some of these, and we'll talk about the rest later. Boolean, let's look at boolean. Boolean is anything that is either true or false. So a boolean can be either of these two values, true or false, any of them. So if I come to my JavaScript and I say variable a equals to true, so a is a boolean. If I say variable b equals to false, b is a boolean. So a boolean is something that's either true or false. Any question before we move on? Okay, let's proceed. Next is a string. A string is anything in quotes, whether single quotes or double quotes. Let's sorry, someone wants to join. So a string is anything in quotes, either single quotes or double quotes. The reason a string is necessary is because when you come to your JavaScript and you say alert and you put anything here, let's say, let me put my name, Taye. When you write something like this in JavaScript, we assume that there is a variable in my code called Taye. I come again. JavaScript, we assume that I've created a variable somewhere in my JavaScript called Taye. So it's going to search through my codes looking for the variable called Taye. Unfortunately, there is no variable called Taye. So again, since it can't find that, it then assumes that there is an ID in my HTML. Maybe there's a container in my HTML with an ID of Taye. Again, there is no container here with an ID of Taye. Right. So this is going to throw an error. I come again. This is going to throw an error. When you just put a text in your code, let's say class. JavaScript assume that there's a variable somewhere called class, or there's an ID somewhere in your HTML called class. If it can't find any of those two, it's going to throw error. If I say tech, JavaScript will assume that there's a variable somewhere called tech, or there's an ID, there's a container with an ID of tech. If it can't find it, it will throw an error. So let's save it and run it on the browser. Now, it's not alerting anything. Normally, if everything works fine, it should alert tech, right? But it's not alerting anything. And like I said, it's going to throw an error. You can see your syntax error in your console. If there's a syntax error in your code, when you go to your console, you can see the syntax error. We use the console to debug. We'll talk more about the console later, but we use it to debug. To see your console, you right click. When you're on the page, when you're on your page like this, you right click, you click on inspect. Then you come here, you select console. So you can see an error here. Tech is not defined. Let's do it again. You right click, you select inspect, then you select console. The shortcut is Ctrl+Shift+I. Ctrl+Shift+I. So you can see the error here. Tech is not defined. And it's telling me the line that this is on line 22. Line 22. So when you go to line 22, you have an error here. Any questions so far? Okay, let's proceed. So, but one thing is this: if it is a number or it's a boolean, it's not going to bring back any error. But if it is a text that is not a number and it's not a boolean, it will throw an error. Let's say I have alert 8. This will alert 8. Everything is working fine. If I say alert true, true is a boolean. So if it's a boolean, it's not going to throw an error. But for now, we are looking at these three. Number, boolean, string. We consider this remaining three later. Number, boolean, string. So when you write anything here, if it's not a number or it is not a boolean, it's going to throw an error. If I say James, it will throw an error. So let's solve this problem. I can now come here and say, put it in quotes. When I put anything in quotes, I'm telling JavaScript that there is no this is not a variable, so don't search through my codes looking for variable James. I'm also telling JavaScript that this is not an ID to a container. What I'm telling JavaScript is that read this the exact way it is written. Don't try to process it. Just read it just like that. Read it as ordinary text. So whenever you put things in code, you are telling JS, you are telling JavaScript that don't try to process this thing. Just read it just like that, the way it's written. So now it's going to alert James. Let's play with this a bit. So I can say variable, imagine I do something like this, variable name equals to James, and I say alert James, alert name. This is going to throw an error. Reason is because when it gets here and it sees this James, it will assume that there's a variable somewhere or an ID somewhere with this name James. So when you run your code, you will have an error. It's telling you James is not defined. So what you can do is that you can put it in quotes. And the quote can either be single quote or double quote. What you are saying is that save this text the exact way it's written. Don't try to process it. Just save it inside variable name. Then this will alert name, which is James. Any questions so far before we move on? Okay. So we've established it as whatever is within quote is a string. Let's move on. Let's say variable num equals to 7. Alerts num. So is this a number or a string? Hello?
It's strange.
It's a string. Exactly. It's a string. Whatever is within quote is a string. Now, the reason this is necessary is because the data type of a variable tells JavaScript how to process that variable. That means the way JavaScript will process this is different from the way it's going to process this. This is a number because it's not within quotes. Why this is a string? Because it's within quotes. So please, this is very important. There is an inbuilt method in JavaScript to check the data type of any value. It is called typeof. So this typeof function tells us the data type of anything you want to check. I can say typeof num. That is, tell me the data type of num. Let's display the results. For now, we use alerts. I will remove this. Typeof will tell us the data type, and we are alerting the results. So it's saying, refresh. It's saying that it's a string, right? It's a string. Then I'll come here and do this like this. This will tell me that it's a number. This is a number. So in case you have any variable or any value and you want to check the data type, you can use this typeof function. Like I said earlier, please, the summary of everything I've discussed is that the data type of a variable tells JavaScript how to process that variable. Let's move on. Why is all of this now important? Whenever you have an input like this, whatever value you enter into this input is a string. I come again. When you have an input and you get some values, and you get the value of an input, whatever value you get from an input like this is a string, irrespective of what it looks like. And click colon, click main. When you click on this button, you want to run the code inside this function. You're going to say alert type of imp does value. Let's take it step by step. Let's var equals to imp does value. Then alert the data type. You know, like I said, this type of function will tell us the data type of any value. So this is the data type of it. Now, although I entered a number here, this is a string. Whatever you get using dot inner text dot value is a string. It is not a number, it is a string. Now, the way JavaScript processes number is different from the way it processes strings. So that leads us to something we call string operation, and that's the second thing we want to learn tonight. String operation, also known as concatenation. String operation, also known as concatenation. So, take things step by step. In JavaScript, when you have a string, let's say I have the first string, I have the second string, let's call this first name, let's call this last name. So I want to display these two names, maybe first name and last name. You can see this is already throwing error. There's something wrong here. You cannot just put two variables side by side. You need to join them together. I come again. You need to join them together. So the syntax to join them together is this. When you are dealing with strings like this and you want to join two strings together, you use this plus sign. Meaning that this plus sign is doing two things in JavaScript. It is doing addition, and also it can also be used to join strings together. In that case, we say it is concatenating strings together. Plus sign does two things in JavaScript. It adds and it concatenates. Concatenation is like welding things together, like maybe a welder welding things together, tying them together. So what this is going to do is that it will tie this and this together, and when you check the browser for the results, look at this, it has tied them together, right? It has tied them together. So the plus sign in JavaScript, when it sees two numbers, it will add. When it sees two strings, it will concatenate. These are two strings. It's concatenating. Let's assume this is a number and this is another number. Then this will be 12. This will be 12. But let's say this is a string and this is another string. This will be 8, 4. It will tie them together. It's not going to add. It will concatenate. This is concatenating. It is tying them together, not adding them. Not adding them. Now, if it sees a string and a number, it will still concatenate. As long as one of them is a string, it will concatenate. So let's assume this is a string, and while this is a number, it will concatenate. This plus will not add. It will concatenate. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's look at some scenarios under this. Let's say I have 4 plus 2 plus 1 plus 5 plus let's say 2. I think this, if you try to execute this will explain how concatenation works very well. 4 plus 2, 6. 6 plus 1, 7. 7 plus 5. This is a string. This is not a number. This is not a number. So it will concatenate them together as 7, 5. Then it will now concatenate that with these two. That becomes, now you might be thinking that this should be maybe something like 7, 5, 6. 4 plus 2 plus 1, 7 plus 5. It will concatenate them. Then 2 plus 4, 6, so that you get 7, 5, 6. But that is not the way it's going to work, right? We have 7, 5, 2, 4. 7, 5, 2, 4. To understand this, one thing I do use is this. Imagine this is not 5, Imagine this is a text. Let's say Taye. Remember I said anything in quotes will be read exactly the way it's written. 4 plus 2, 6. 6 plus 1, 7. 7 plus Taye, that becomes 7 Taye. 7 Taye plus 2. It can't add 7 Taye and 2 together. That becomes 7 Taye 2. Then 7 Taye 2 plus 4. That becomes 7 Taye 2, 4. Right, 7 Taye 2, 4. This is not going to give you 7 Taye 6. It's going to be 7 Taye 2, 4. So just treat this 5 just like that as texts. Anything in quote is seen like text. It's seen as a text. Like 4 plus 2, 6 plus 1, 7. 7 plus 5, that becomes 7 5. 7 5 plus 2, 7 5 2. 7 5 2 plus 4, that becomes 7 5 2 4. So technically, when it encounters a string, it starts treating every other thing as strings. So immediately it encounters this string, every other thing now is treated as string. Any question? Let's check the results together. So we allowed it. If you have a question, let me know. So that's why we have the 7 5 2 4. So because of the way the plus sign works, that's the reason I didn't give you as an assignment in the last class, because it's not going to work as you might have expected it to work. So back to this, where we started from. So we have a first input, the second input. When you click on this, add numbers, we want to call on a function add number, add inputs. Let's get the function add inputs. I'll just copy this, paste, change the name. So what it is going to do is that it will get the first input. Remember I said whatever you get inside an input is a string. It will get the second input. This second input is also a string. Then it will add them together. But this is not going to add because this is a string and this is also a string. And when you use a plus sign to join two strings together, it is not going to add. Instead, it will concatenate them. So the concatenation of this will be saved as results, and that's what you're going to see here. So let's say I have first input 9, I have second input 5. 9 plus 5 normally should be 14, but this is giving us 9 5 because whatever you get inside an input is a string. Now what if I actually want it to add? Now I don't want it to concatenate. I don't want it to concatenate. So what I can do is that I can convert a string to a number. So all I need to do is that to convert it to a number, I can wrap it with the number function. I can say number. So what this is going to do is that it will convert this number function. If you have a value that looks like this, when you wrap it to the number function, it becomes this. It gives you this. So it's like removing the quote around it and saving it like that. That's provided the value inside it is a number. What I mean is this. If I try to use the number function for Taye like this, it's not going to work. It will tell you it can't do this. It can't convert it to a number. But let's say the value is something that can be converted to a number, like 8. 8 within quotes. This is a string. When you wrap it to the number function, when I say number 8 like this, the result will look like this. This is going to be the result. So when you wrap this with a number function, you can have the second one also with number function. So this is going to be the number format of whatever first input is, the number format of whatever the second input is. So this plus sign now, because it now sees two numbers, it will add them together and this will become the value of the result of the addition will be result, and it will place it here. So question, any question? Okay, let's move on. So that is on concatenation. Now to the assignments. I want us to build. I want you to build a calculator. Get an interface. Let me come here. I want you to build a simple calculator. Just focus on this part. C. I don't know what this does. C, as in this is going to clear the whole screen. This will remove the last character. Division, multiplication, subtraction, addition, equal sign, then zero decimal number. This will do the opposite of whatever is on the screen. Let's say it is 5, it becomes -5. It is -5, it becomes 5. Then we have 1 to 9, right? So do this part. See this that removes the last character. Division, multiplication, subtraction, addition, equal sign, 0 plus this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's discuss some of those things you will also need to know before you embark on the project. We want to look at slice function. What slice does is that slice removes part of a string. Let's say I have a string like this. Let's say I have a string called let me use someone with a long name. Come in. Okay, Tamilari. Okay, Christopher. So let's say I have a string that looks like this. If I say name dot slice, this slice takes 2 arguments. Is a function. Let's remove the last one now. We'll come to that. This slice is a function. It takes 2 arguments. The first argument is the starting point. The second argument is the ending point. Now, you see this C is at position 0. H is at position 1. R is at position 2. I is at position 3. S is at position 4. T is at position 5. O is at position 6. P is at position 7. H is at position 8. E is at position 9. And R is at position 10. I come again. The first character here is at position 0. The next value is at 1. The next one is at 2. On and on like that. So if I want it to start from C, I'll come here and put 0. That is, start from the first character. Then, where do I want it to end? Let's assume I want it to end at S. S is at which position? I'm asking us now, which position is X?
Fourth position.
Exactly. 4th position. So you put 4 here, that is, start at position 0, end at position 4, that is, start at C and end at S, but that's not all. So this should give us something that looks like this. Chris, start at 0, end at 4, C is at position 0, S is at position 4, right? But look at it, I'm doing name, that is this variable, Christopher, you know, name is Christopher, name dot slice 0, 4. So start at 0 and it's going to give us like this, but that's not how. The rule is this, you see this first argument is included. This second one is excluded. That is, the value at the first argument, whatever number you put here, the value here will be included. while the value here will be excluded. So what's the value at the fourth one, which this is S? That means S will be excluded from the results. I come again. This is the starting point, this is the ending point, but the value at the ending point itself will be excluded from the result you're going to get, right? So when we run this now, let's say we have a variable called sliced name. We can now say alert sliced name. So you have ch how high, ch how high. Let's look at this. Now I have a question. If I want to just say ISTO, what am I going to do? What will be the value here and what will be the value here?
The starting value will be 3.
Okay.
And 7 will be the
Exactly. 3,7.
last value.
Thank you. 3,7. C is at 0, H is at 1, R is at 2, high is at 3. That's why we have 3 here. We want to start from high. S is at 4, T is at 5, O is at 6, P is at 7. That's why we have 7 here. Remember, this value at 7 will be excluded from the results, meaning that we just see ISTO, just like that. Thank you. So we have ISTO. Let's proceed. So what if I want to see I want to see Christopher without this last R. I want to see Christopher without the last R. So what am I going to do? Because I want to see everything here except this last character.
0, minus 1.
Yeah, 0, minus 1. So let's discuss how this works. This minus 1. For now, let's look at this. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you can now come here and put 11. Okay, without the half, that's 10. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So how is that position 10? So I put it 10. That would just be Christopher without the half, right? Now, another thing you can do is this. You can come here and say, instead of manually putting half here, putting 10 here, imagine that this is a variable. This is a variable that you are getting from your users. Let's say, so button, click me. So we'll still come back to the minus 1 and explain how it works. Click me. And click. Click me. So when I click on this button, I want to get whatever is inside this place, then remove the last character from it. ID, IMP, comment out this part. So get the ID here, the value here. Let's input value equals to imp.value. Then let's sliced value equals to, so you want to remove the last character here. You know, I can say input value dot slice start from 0 end at. Now I don't know what the user will type. Imagine the user typed Taye. If I say 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 3, that will give me TAY, and it will work fine. So I can come here and put 0, 3. It will work fine for Taye. Let's alert the results. Alert sliced value. Do you understand this? Who doesn't understand what I have on the screen? That is, when you click on this place, it's going to get a value inside this place. Save it as input value, then slice it, put the result here, and this will display the sliced result. So I'll come here and put style here, and this will work fine, TAY. But there is a problem. Imagine that the user now puts a longer text. Let's say the user puts kinde. If you slice kinde as 0,3, you're going to have something that looks like this. Let's say this is kinde. 0,3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So you just have KEH. KEH. Oh, remove this. KEH. This is not what you want it to do. You want it to end at kind without the last E. So there are two approaches you can do, which you can use, right? There are two things you can use. I'm doing this because of the assignment I gave you. You will need that for this part of the assignment. In case I mistakenly type a number, I want to remove this last character. So if I press this, I've removed it. If I press this, I've removed it. So that's the reason I'm doing this for you. You need this for that part. So you want to slice it, but you don't want to just put 0,3 here. You want to say there are two ways, right? One thing you can do is this. You can put the negative number, or you can say calculate the length of the inputs. Let input length equals to input value dot length. So come here, say input length minus 1. Let's look at what this is going to do. So before explaining this, I will play with this a bit. Let's A equals to A, B, C, D, E. A dot slice 0, comma. How many characters do I have here? Hello?
5.
5 characters. So I can say 0, 5 minus 1. That is 4. That is start at 0, end at 4. Do you understand? Are you with me? This is 0.
Yes, sir.
This is 0. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3. E is at 4. And I don't want to include E. So I can say the number of characters here minus 1. That is, if I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then I can say the length of this minus 1, that will be 7 minus 1. So how do I get the length of this? I can say A dot length. A dot length, A dot length. A dot length gives us the number of characters in a string. That is, calculate the number of characters here, which is in this case 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7. Then minus 1. Do you understand? So that's going to be 0, 6 now. And I can, let's display this. Let's B equals to this. And let's B. Go to the browser. So you can see it has removed the last character. The good thing about this approach is that in case this changes to something else, it will still work fine. A dot length. Length here now is 4. 4 minus 1, that's 3. That's 0, 3. It will remove the last character. And then we have this TAY. If the number of lengths change to something else, let's say James. So A dot length here, the number of characters here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 minus 1, that's 4. That's 0, 4. And it will be JEME like this. So this is successfully removing the last character. Then another approach is to start counting from the back, and that's what Sharifa helped us with. You see, this, I told you this is at 0, right? But if you're counting from the back, S is at position minus 1, E is at position minus 2, M is at position minus 3, A is at minus 4, J is at minus 5. I come again. If you are counting from the back, from behind, this is at minus 1, S E is at minus 2, M is at minus 3, A is at minus 4, J is at minus 5. Let's say I have kind of E here is at minus 1, D is at minus 2, N is at minus 3, I is at minus 4, H is at minus 5, E is at minus 6, and K is at minus 7. Like that. It's at minus 7. So, if you are doing this now, I can now put minus 1. Remember, the second value here is not included. That is, this E, which is at minus 1, will not be included in the result. So it will start at 0, which is K, then it will end at minus 1, which is E, but it will not include the value at minus 1. So you can use this. This is to remove the last character. Then last thing we are learning today is eval. We use this to evaluate a string. Let's look at life without eval. If I say 8 times 3 plus 2. If I run this, what do you think this is going to give us? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Alright. So, when you run this, because remember I said anything in quotes is seen the exact way it is written. This will just be seen as 8 times 3 plus 2, just like that. 8 times 3 plus 2, because everything is within quotes. Everything here is a quote. So everything is just a string, and it's going to be read exactly like that. That is totally different from this. This 8 is within quotes, but this multiplication is not within quotes. So 8 times 3, that's 24, right? Plus this is a string. So to concatenate 24 plus 2, that's going to give you 242. 242. So this multiplication and this addition, they are not within quotes, meaning that they will be seen as operators. They'll be seen as operators. But if everything is within quotes like this, everything within a quote like this will be seen just as ordinary text, no more, no less. It will be seen as just as ordinary text. Now, what if I want to evaluate this text? It's a string. Everything is just a string, but I want to evaluate it. I want it to convert it to arithmetic operation and to do the evaluation. That is where eval comes in. This eval, it makes it easy for us to evaluate a string of mathematical operations. So this is a mathematical operation, although it is a string, but this eval still has the ability to deal with it as though they are whole numbers. It will still deal with everything as though they are whole numbers. So it's going to do 8 times 3, 24, plus 2, 26. It will give you 26. So this advice to make the assignments I gave easier, right? In case you want to evaluate a string of mathematical expressions, then you can easily use eval to evaluate it. Normally, like I said, this shouldn't be possible because this is a string and you shouldn't evaluate a string, but thanks to eval function, it makes it possible for us to evaluate this, and to evaluate it, give us the results and allow the results. So let's quickly summarize what we've done so far today. Today we looked at some data types. We said data types are it stands for types of data that we deal with in JavaScript. We have number, we have boolean, we have string, and some other ones that will be considered later. Number is it can be whole number, it can be decimal number. Numbers that are not within quotes, those are numbers. Booleans are two of us. String is anything in quotes. Then a string is anything inside quotes. So in your JavaScript, you get to your JavaScript part, and you have anything in quote now. This is a string. Then I said you can easily convert a string to a number by wrapping it with a number function like this to convert it to a number. Then we talked about concatenation. Concatenation is used to, we call it concatenator, which is the plus symbol. This plus symbol does two things in JavaScript. It adds and it concatenates. When it sees two numbers, it adds. When it sees two strings, or one of them is a string, it concatenates. It concatenates. Then we talked about the slice function. This is used to slice a string. You put your string here, dot slice. So the first argument is the starting point, the second argument is the ending point, but it's not going to include the value at the ending point where it's going to end. It won't include the value there. So having said that, then we also talked about eval function. The eval function makes it possible for us to evaluate a string of mathematical expressions. So this is a string. 7 plus 3 plus 2, this will give us 12 because of this eval function. Ordinarily, this should just alert, if you allow this should just alert it the way it's written, 7 plus 3 plus 2, because everything is within quotes. But then the eval will help us to evaluate it and give us the results. So that's all we've discussed tonight. Any question before we go? So build a simple calculator that looks like this. Do these parts. Clear this. Clear. Let's assume I type some things. I want to clear everything on the screen. I'll press this to clear everything. Then I want to remove the last character. I type this to remove the last character. Then the division will work also. Then multiplication minus plus, then equals to will give you the result of your calculation. And so please ensure you try out this assignment. The way you learn is by trying out. It's not a must to get it done, but give it a try. Give it a try. Look at it. If you don't get it the first time, try it again. You may get it, you may not get it, but give it a try. That's how you learn. Then next class we do the solution together, and it is by doing the solution that you also learn one or two things in the process. So thanks for coming. Good to have you here. Have a lovely night, rest.